Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Coach's Corner. My name is Dwayne Dwyer. I go by the Mindset Coach,
My name is the Uncle Junior, and I go by the Consistency Coach.
and we are your coaches for Coach's Corner. As always, if you're here and you just want to soak up information and just go back and watch TV and do absolutely nothing with it, this may not necessarily be the place for you. However, if you are here and you're looking to be a change agent, you're looking to add impact, add value to others, and help be a pillar of your community, I think you're in the right place at the right time. Not only that, I think you were destined to be sitting in your seat, listening to the voice of myself, the mindset coach, and my good friend, the consistency coach, on this evening. And I pray that you get something out of this conversation. So, that being said, let me speak to my good friend, the Uncle Junior, the consistency coach, who I affectionately call C Square. How you doing this evening, brother?
Mindset Coach, I am doing well. I am excited about the conversation. I am in good mood. I am a little exhausted, but like I mentioned, be behind the scenes, before we started the show, is sometimes when you exhausted, sometimes that's when that second wind kicks in and you keep it going. So
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to the show, man. I'm in a good mood, good spirits, all of the thing. Life is going well right now. Summertime is still upon us. It's a little warm outside. So if you're out there, hopefully ain't nobody AC breaking down. Hopefully you're staying cool out there in that heat. We
yeah.
got some people in Texas, who watch the show, North Carolina, Georgia, different places and stuff like that. So yeah, man. How's everything going on in mindset world?
All is well. I'm excited because I started working on this project, and you and I was talking about it backstage. But for
Yeah.
everybody else who is listening, be on the lookout for Legion Legacy Trust. I'm excited about, I'm just excited. I'm excited to talk about it. I'm excited for us to embrace it, and I think it's nothing but pure goodness as people get a better understanding of it. It might be a little fearful at first for some people, but at the end of the day, I think when they see the plan, when they see the details behind the plan, I think everybody's going to be excited about it, man. And here's the deal: for those who are not excited about it, I'm okay with that, right? Because it may just for them, it may not necessarily be right now, but who knows what the future may hold. So yeah, I'm
Mhm.
just excited because that's us putting together the plan to get after the things that we talk about so often. So all is well, man. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, man. It's something how um, backstage conversations can shift. We just started off, one show after the show backstage just talking, and we was just like, hey, let's not talk about, let's be about, and let's put something
Yeah.
into action, and there's a name for it and all of those other things. So now
Mhm.
my just excitement level just went to another level. So like you said, y'all stay tuned, and we ain't gonna give y'all all of that. If y'all want to know more, maybe we'll maybe we ain't gonna nothing. Just stay tuned. There you
Maybe we'll do a whole show about it one day. Who knows?
go. Maybe we'll do a whole show. Yep, I
I
like
love
it.
it. I love it.
So is it on me right now?
It's on you, man. You
All
got
right,
the
it's
wheel.
on me. Man, so here's the deal, man. We all got kids. Most of us who are watching this show, I think a lot of us are in our 30s and our 40s and 50s, and maybe a couple of people older than that. And we all have kids. My mom is probably watching right now, Charlotte Jordan, and I am her child, so the thing about this, the title of the show is called "When to Speak and When to Stay Silent" as a dad of grown kids. Now we're going to specifically talk about dads, but I think that the way we have this conversation, we can include parents in general with some of the things that we're going to talk about. But if we get specifically for men, it's intentional because it's specifically for men. Now again, I said Charlotte Jordan in the chat is my mom. Again, how much room or how much leniency does she have to be and put her nose all in my business? I'm grown. I'm 49 years old. What can or what can she not say to me? I have a 30-year-old son. My oldest is 30. What can and what can I not say to him? How much information can I give to him? How much is it going to be preaching? When do I get to put my foot or my information or my nose into his business. And that is kind of sort of um the kind of the conversation I want to have today. You know, we got grown kids, you do, I do, and a lot of people, like I said in the chat and stuff like that. So before we continue, I want to welcome to chat. Glad, thank everybody for being here. I appreciate you. I know we almost 6 minutes into the show. I apologize for not speaking to you guys earlier. But again, welcome to the show. If you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe button, share this with someone who may benefit from it. I know a lot of y'all know some other parents out right now, and I know some of y'all, a lot of y'all in parent. Look, I don't. We all are learning as we go. You know what I mean? My dad is not here, so my dad can't tell me when to get in my son's business and when to keep my mouth shut. So I got to reach out to to Coach and Gaddy and Roland or whoever else that I know that may have kids or people in the chat. So I'm asking y'all to help me learn more about all of this because I am not the subject matter expert um in this topic. I am here to learn. I'm here to help facilitate this conversation. I have some information. I have my thoughts and perspectives about it. Coach has his, but I really would like to chat to make sure you guys are chiming in and be part of the show and to kind of help us along with this. So, Coach, before we get started, anything else you got?
No, man, I'm excited. I think what people are going to find is that this is going to be I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation. I think some people may hear some things that make them question whether or not what they're doing as a parent is right or wrong. But just look at it from the perspective of, you know, not so much as right versus wrong, but look at more right versus less right. And I say that, and I know it almost sounds like the same thing, but like you said, when it came down to parenting, no one really knew what they were doing. They just figured it out. And in the midst of figuring it out, you made mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. And hopefully you learn from those mistakes. But I mean, being an adult parent, well, adult parent, right? Being a parent to an adult is different, right?
Hmm.
So it's like, and we'll talk about it, certain gateways and benchmarks that I have to understand. So just like you, 51 with a 31-year-old son. So 27-year-old daughter, right?
Hmm.
24-year-old daughter, a
Hmm.
20-year-old son. So yeah, all of my kids are grown, every last
Yep.
one of them. So it
Yep.
gets this, it's unique and
Hmm.
fun at the same time.
And then the 31 and the 20-year-old, they're, probably in different places in their life,
Absolutely.
because my 20 and 30-year-old is my 20-year-old is, he's active duty in the military, he's single, no kids, and my 30-year-old is, married, has been for about 10, 11 years and has two kids.
Yeah.
So they're in two different places in their life.
Yeah.
So all right, so as we're going to start like we do with definitions, we're going to talk about these grown kids, right? So here's what I want to start with. The grown kids, maybe we'll change it to, we may interchange it with adult child or something like this. So we may not use grown kids the entire show. Just be aware that this word be changeable, may be interchangeable with adult child or something like that. So here's what I think grown kids are. Grown kids are 18 plus who are making their own decisions, managing responsibilities, and living with greater independence, but still benefiting from parental guidance, support, and emotional presence. I'm willing to hear anything you want to add to or take away from this definition on grown kids to kind of set the ground rules, set the
I don't
ground.
see I don't see anything to take away from this. But one thing I will add to this is living on their own, meaning that they're
Mm,
not living under my roof,
okay.
right? And I say that because you still could be 18 plus, go through a bad spot in your life and come back home, and you're still a grown, still an adult, right? But
Mhm.
you are still under the guidance and the rules of my house. And so you are grown, but by that same token, you still must follow my rules. And I think
Mm,
that by itself can be a challenge to an adult alone. But that's why I always said they can come back and they can come back temporarily. Boys more temporarily than the girls, right? Girls get a longer stay. I got it.
Mhm.
Some people
Yeah, I
say that.
mean,
Some people say that's one. I don't care.
hey,
It is
it
what
is
it is.
what it
Right. It
is.
is what it is. Boys, they like I said, because I understand what it's like to be in their shoes. So that's the only thing I would add to. Not that this definition is wrong. The only thing I would add to is that living on their own as well.
Yep, I like it. I like that add. I like that addition to the definition. So as we roll right into this first question, man, we're gonna keep it sweet and simple. All right. So how do you know when your advice is welcome and when it's not?
They ask for it.
If they ask for it. So only if they ask for it. If they don't ask for it, then it's not welcomed.
In most cases, but you don't know, right? The only
Mm-hmm.
way that you know is that they come and ask you. They come and sit down and say, "Can we have a talk?" or whatever the case may be. Outside of that, I'm assuming, I'm hoping, I'm speculating. But when I get down to the root of this question, how do I know? Because they asked
Mm-hmm.
me for it.
All right. So let's shift the dynamics a little bit. Um, and let's go between me and you.
Sure.
We have I don't know if we've offered each other advice, but I think that we have. So I haven't always asked, and you haven't always asked, but I
Mhm.
think that we have giving each other advice. And as far as I'm concerned, any advice that you have ever shared with me has been 100% welcome. So is that because we have already established that? Is it because we are working together on Coach's Corner and we have a not only a personal, but we also have a business and colleague type relationship as well?
I would say yes, but it didn't start at Coach's Corner. I think it
Mhm.
started all the way back with Elevated Dialogue.
Okay.
Because remember back then, that's when I was first getting into the podcasting space, and I absolutely did welcome every piece of advice that you gave me because you was already doing the thing I was aspiring to do. So I would
Mhm.
have been a fool not to listen to what it is that you were saying. And if
Mhm.
you think about it, I think within the scope of that initial conversation, I was sharing some things with you about what I wanted to do, and you offered the olive branch. You said, if you want to, you can actually come and be a part of my show. That way you get your feet wet and kind of understand what it's like and so forth and so on. That was
Mhm.
100% welcome. I didn't ask specifically like, hey, can you help me? I didn't do that. But
Yeah.
in the midst of me sharing what it is I want to do, you offered some help, right? And so that became a gateway. Again, in the midst of that, you offering help that I actually asked like directly. No, I didn't ask directly, but you seeing the need and you feel the need. And I think in that role, I think that's 100% welcome. Like if my child comes to me and asks and say, well, Dad, I want to do this. And then for me, my initial thoughts are like, okay, well, what is your plan to do it? Because I want to see how they're actually maneuvering this space. What thoughts did they put behind the plan? Do they even have a plan? Or is it just something that they woke up today and say, hey, I want to do this? Because I think also that there has to be some effort on their behalf that they put forth that they're going to learn some things about themselves. Even when I offer some assistance in conjunction with what they're doing, it may not necessarily be welcomed. But I think in our conversation, I think it was clear to see it was 100% welcome.
Mm. And I think from what I kind of gathered all of that, there's kind of two different types of advice, and I'm kind of thinking about this out loud.
Mhm.
One is you saying, "Hey, look, I'm getting ready to start a podcast," and and I say, "Okay, well, here's anything you need, you let me know." So now, when you open the door and when you ask me for or you talk about something you want, in a sense, not that you're asking for advice, but now you accept all of the advice that comes along with the thing versus just asking for, one individual piece of advice like, "Hey dad, I'm thinking about get a tattoo." You know what I mean? That's different, I think, than saying, "Hey, look, I want to start, dad, I want to start a business.
Mhm.
And I want to open up a tattoo shop."
Sure.
Now, all of the extra information that comes along with that is welcome because it falls up under the umbrella of I want to start a business versus I want to get a tattoo. Is like yes or no, what do you think? Blah blah blah. So a little more, not as many steps in there.
Yeah, I agree. I think the other side of it as well. If my son say, "Hey, Dad, I want to start a tattoo parlor or whatever," I
Hmm.
think me being inquisitive about his business venture kind of opens the door for him to ask for advice as well. I
Hmm.
still do believe, again, going back to how do you know, I still do believe that as a parent to an adult child, I have to give them room to be an adult. I think a lot of times what we tend to do is we're like, that's my child. I want to make sure that my child is successful. Sure, that's a true
Yeah.
thing. But part of your child being successful is you getting out the way. Because at the end of the day, if you are always involved with what your child is doing, then where does that independence that they need in their life, where does that come from? Because if mom and daddy is always there to bail them out, then they can fly by the seat of their pants and not necessarily worried about getting stuck because mom and dad is going to always bail them out. But when do they get to learn the lesson that life is trying to teach them in that moment, right? Allow them to go through it. And then when they ask the question or ask for help, that's something totally different.
Well, speaking of getting out the way, can saying nothing sometimes be the most loving thing a father does and expand either way?
It depends.
Mm.
Um, I think there are times where you can find yourself in a situation and by either experience or knowledge that you gained over the years, you know that whatever it is they're doing may not necessarily be the right thing to do, but they're adamant about doing it anyway. Now, a lot of times we get motivated to do this thing because we're excited. And I give you a perfect example. First time most people get introduced to multi-level marketing, and like, oh man, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this because they get wrapped up in the motivational conversation that they have about the mountaintop. But the conversations that don't take place is what it's like to climb to the mountaintop. So they don't know anything about climbing the mountain. They just hear what it's like to be on the mountaintop. And so all you hear them talking about is the mountaintop based upon them getting ready to start the thing. And it's like in your mind, you want to have that conversation with them, but they never asked. They never came to you to talk about it. If they did, they may have found out that, dad did a few multi-level marketing adventures in the past as well. And here's some things I can share with you about the lessons that I learned in doing so. So, because of their motivation and because they're really focused on doing this thing, you got to let them do it. You gotta let them go out there. You gotta let them try. You gotta let them stump their toe so that they can learn a valuable lesson about themselves. Because in that moment, they learn the most important lesson that they will ever learn about motivation. Motivation is high today, gone tomorrow. If they don't learn that lesson early, that lesson will come around later. So I think in that event, I don't say nothing. I let them figure it out for themselves. As long as they don't like go and dump $1 million in this multi-level marketing venture, right? If it's like, 29.99 to get started, go ahead, have at it. Enjoy. So I think that's the difference. When I understand the parameters and it's not a debilitating thing, I don't necessarily need to say something. But if it is debilitating, if it is something that has the potential to set them back 10, 15, 20 years, then now I have a responsibility as a father to say something, even if what I say is not welcomed in that moment.
See, I get all of that. And that's why I'm going to move right to the next question because it's going to fall. My response to this is going to be something that we all can participate in, the coaches and the audience. And that is there a time you wish you had stayed silent with your adult child? Like back to this question. Can
Mhm.
saying nothing sometimes be the most loving thing a father does? I don't know. Again, as I go back to the beginning of the show and why this topic came about, I am currently 100%. I am being transparent with you and the audience. I am in this situation right now with my adult child. I love my son. My
Right.
son is married. He has shown that he can make good decisions up to this point. He's 30 years old. He ain't never been in trouble with the law. He served his country for the 9 years. He's in the reserves right now, and he's taking care of his family. His wife has never had to work a day in her life. She
Right.
works inside of the home, taking care of two daughters. He's doing his thing. But there is something that has been going on recently, and
Hmm.
I don't necessarily agree with it from an educational standpoint. And
Yeah.
I am currently staying silent on it because I want to get more information and to know again, like I said, Charlene, can she put her nose in my business? Can I put my nose in Brandon's business? Is
Mm,
it for me to get in there and question him, especially when he has a pattern and has shown that he has been responsible and that he can make good decisions? When it comes to this one, I don't agree with it.
yeah. Quick answer: no.
So
However,
you always said something.
yeah, but I mean, I'm just being honest. Like, is there a time you wish you had stayed silent with your child? No,
Uh-huh.
because I've always had that as a measuring stick for me. They're
Mhm.
grown. They're grown. They make their own decisions, and I am measured in sharing advice with them by them soliciting it. When they solicit it, or I see them doing something that's going to be detrimental to them, then I ask them a question. I like, let's talk about this. Can we talk about this? Do you want to, like, is it anything? And I do it a lot. Like, is there anything that you got on your mind that you want to talk about? Anything you want to share? Stuff like that. If they do, great, we can talk about it. If not, great, we don't have to talk about it. But I still allow them to be adults. And I do not overstep my boundaries as it pertains to them, because here's the other side to it. When I was in their shoes, I didn't have anybody overstep their boundaries with me. And if they did, it didn't last long, right? Because at the end of the day, I reminded them like, hey, hold up, wait, hold up, player. And I think it's a very easy thing if I change the dynamics to them dating. When a young man finds a woman that he is very into, you may see her and be like, I don't know about this one, cuz, but it don't matter what you think. The only thing that matters is what they think at that particular point in time. Unless I see that they are out to do you harm. Now I have a requirement to say something. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's one of those things you got to trust your gut feeling as a parent. Do I have the potential to damage my relationship with my child if I give unsolicited about advice about a thing that they're very adamant or attached to? Yes. However, if that thing has the potential to harm them, now I have a responsibility to have an honest conversation with them.
At this moment, at this time, um I think I should have the conversation.
Okay.
Um Reason being, I don't think it's going to be detrimental to the relationship at all. I don't think it's going to hurt it at all. I think he will either. I know from what I've known about him in the 30 years, he would take the advice.
Hmm.
Well, at the advice, he would take the information and process it and still make his own decision about it.
Right.
So, yeah. That's why, like I said, I be cheating over here sometime, y'all. I be coming over here and getting help too. So, it is what it is. But sometimes, you just need to just talk through things. And, if we were just, behind the scenes and not on Coach's Corner, I would still want to have this conversation, and it would probably be pretty similar to how this would go. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
May not be as structured as the questions and stuff like that. So, yeah, but audience, I'm very, by this time, they've already probably chimed in and said some of the different things that in response to this question is there a time.
Coach, you
So,
wrong. I wouldn't. I'm joking.
yeah. But see, I said yes, and you said no. So
Right.
it's I'm definitely probably a mix of opinions and perspectives in the chat.
Well, and I think to this question, there is no wrong answer, right?
Exactly.
Is there a time you wish you had stayed silent with your child? For
Mhm.
me, it's no,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, I think we have the conversations that we need to have and the
Mhm.
conversations that they desire to have. And as long
Mhm.
as that is good for them, it's good for me. Are there conversations that we can have that I know we don't have? Absolutely. But that's in every relationship that you find.
Mhm.
Yep.
And I like that. And then speaking of which, I like how this question is too. All right. So this is not about advice. This is about the father's voice. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So, remember when we was little kids and we always talked about, your mom was like, wait till your daddy get home. Mama say something, blah, blah, blah. But something about daddy's voice, or when daddy step in or something like that, it was a totally different thing. So why do adult children still need their father's voice, even if they don't ask? Here's in parentheses, or do they?
So the answer is they do. Um,
Mhm.
and I think, and this is, of course, my perspective, I think every adult child wants to know that their parents not approve of them, but are proud of them, right? I also believe that in the grand scheme of things, you have a lot more experience than they have. They're still figuring life out at whatever age they're at. Even us at 50 and older, we're still figuring some things out about life as well. But if I can share something with them that kind of expedite their growth pattern, that would be more advantageous to them. It's kind of like, in the Bible where Jethro was talking to Moses, asking what is this thing that he is doing? I will give you counsel. And that's kind of like, the point when you see them doing a thing, and I keep going back to this because it's important. When you see them doing a thing that can prove to be detrimental over a period of time, then you share some things with them to give them some things to think about. But when it comes down to adult children still needing their father's voice or their parents' voice in that matter, absolutely. And it's not that I need my parents' voice for approval. No, it's just good to know that I have parents who don't intrude, don't meddle, but they give me great guardrails to consider when I'm making, life decisions and how I handle this and how I'm dealing with this. And let's just be honest, as an adult child, it's a very good thing to be able to go to your parent and say, Dad, can I talk to you about something? I got something on my mind and I'm kind of torn about which direction to go. And I kind of want to solicit your feedback on this. That's a good feeling for a father to be able to have your child come to you and say something like that. Cause you should be like, what I'm saying? You should be amped up and ready for that conversation. Turn the TV off, turn around, face them, and listen what they got to say. And then just kind of hear life through their lens in that particular moment so that you can pour into them. Not only because I think one of the biggest mistakes that we do, I think we tend to talk about the things that we did as opposed to talking about the lessons that we learned. And so now the advice that I give them is not so much based upon what I did, but it's what I learned from the things that I did because I want to give them the best version of me in that particular point in time. So, do adult children still need their father's voice? Absolutely. Do they still need their mother's voice? Absolutely. And I think when we look at that, those parents now for that adult child are advisors.
I like that, and I'm glad you shifted to mothers because that's where I was going to go. And that's why at the beginning of the show, I said, yes, we're talking about fathers, but I think it can involve mothers, especially, with everything, but right here specifically. My father is gone. My father passed away in 2018. I still have a mom. My mom is probably in the chat right now. She's probably doing something else, but she's probably in the chat as well. Charlotte Jordan, that's her. Um, but I still do need my mother's voice. Now I don't know I'm some weak baby type stuff, but me and my mom, we have conversations. We have conversations about the show. We have
Mhm.
show conversations about Coach's Corner. We have um conversations about Empower Perspective podcast and Hearts of Men on Friday nights. We talk about other things. We talk about a lot of different things. We talk about, my father sometimes, even though he's not here. We talk
Yeah.
about my siblings. We talk about the relationships that sometimes we have with other siblings and stuff like this. Why do adults? children still need their father's or mother's voice. We just do, man. It's just like it's a constant. Like we came into this world hearing our father's and our mother's voice. Like it's a constant. It's something we can always recognize, especially if we have good relationships with these people. I for one have a good relationship with my mother,
Yeah.
and I had a good relationship with my father. Not all the time, but for like the last 10 years or so before he passed away, we had a great relationship. So and that's speaking from me being the adult child. Now, the other side of that is me being the father. I want my children, I want to be a good example to where they want to be able to come to me, to where they want to still need their father's voice.
Yeah.
I know you spoke a lot about that perspective and stuff like that. So I'm not going to dwell on it too long, but I just wanted to tap that other piece real quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I think, I mean, again, it's just one of those things, like you said, you just do. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and again, I'm 51 years old, and my dad is, I'm fortunate to still have him here. And
Yep.
whenever we get on the phone, it's good to have just regular run of the mill conversation, talking about important things or nothing important at all, and to be able to laugh about certain things. Like I shared with him when I had my first colonoscopy. And,
Mm-hmm.
man, we laughed like it was Def Comedy Jam because, I shared some things with him, and I shared with him the anxiety that I had, I did it to myself, right? And when we talked about, yeah, you and I,
Yeah.
but I shared with him the anxiety, leading up to it, and he said, "Oh yeah, man, I understand, I get it." And those are great conversations to have, like things that you're going through and things that your mother or your father have already been through, and you're sharing those experiences with one another. Those are great conversations to have.
Yeah. See, I ain't got nobody to talk to me about mine. Charlotte Jordan, you didn't have Joy. Why you ain't talk to me about? No, I don't know if she had one or not.
See,
I
that
ain't
ain't
gonna
true
put
because
on.
we talked
I
about
ain't
it.
gonna put.
See what I'm
I
saying?
don't put on blast. I don't know if she having that. Maybe she might have talked to my sisters about stuff like that. Maybe because they girls or something like that.
Yeah, man.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe I ain't get that. But me and you, we talked about
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Don't worry about it, Miss Charlotte Jordan. I got you. He and I,
yeah,
we
yeah,
already talked about it. I gave him the
yeah.
full rundown.
Yep, and I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. Moving on, man. Folks, here's what we're gonna really do. We are getting ready to shift a little bit, and we're gonna do something new this week. This week is we're gonna do something called rapid fire. So I'm gonna ask Coach a series of questions. We got 9 questions. He's gonna have about 3 to 5, 3 to 6 answers, 3 to 6 seconds or so to answer these questions. Now, as you are listening to this, feel free to do the same thing while you're listening. All right. So again, this is a rapid fire segment. Coach is going to have 3 to 6 seconds to respond with these. They're not going to be on the screen. All right. So the first one, Coach, speak. Now, all of these are in response or in conjunction with the topic that we're talking about tonight. All right. So speak or wait.
That was it.
Mm-hmm.
Wait.
Advice or silence.
Advice.
One thing every dad should say more.
I love you.
One thing every dad should say less.
Um, words.
Hmm. Is silence strength?
No.
Can you give? I can't read my. Oh, can you guide without words?
Yes.
Should every truth be told?
No.
Is giving advice always helpful?
No.
What's more powerful, timing or truth?
Timing.
Mhm. That was it, folks. That was Coach's rapid fire. How you think you did? Ain't no right or wrong.
Oh no, I think I got an 80%. No, I'm joking.
80%.
It
You got
was
a 100%.
the questions caught me off guard. I'll be honest with you, especially the
Mhm.
first one because I was looking for
Yeah.
more. I was like, okay.
Speak or wait.
And I know, like, I'm almost 100% positive that some people in the chat said the truth is more powerful than timing. But
Mhm.
the reason why I went with timing, and I just want to make sure I clear this up. The reason why I went for timing because even though truth has a higher divine order than timing, I believe, but the truth with imperfect timing carries the most profound and prolific measure for people. So it's not that every truth needs to be told at any given point in time. You have to make sure that you select the right timing when dealing with people to tell them the truth.
I get that. I get that. Man, I like that. That was fun.
It was.
You had to think on your toes. You was ready for it though.
I was ready, man.
You was
I'm
ready
good.
for it. I knew you was. I knew you was. I think I like that one. One thing every dad should say more is "I love you." I think that's a good one. I think
Absolutely.
especially dads.
Yeah.
I s- I was oh man, am
Say
I
it.
gonna throw
Say
myself
it.
under the
Say it,
bus?
man. Say it. People
All
need to
right,
hear
I'm gonna
it
throw myself under the bus.
because mine's coming right behind yours. Go
All
ahead.
right, so I got three sons. Some of them is a lot easier to say I love you than others. I don't know why, but I say it. I say it often. Could I say it more? Yes. But one in particular is it's a little more challenging. Not that it's not going to be received. It's going to be received. It's
Right.
just and then two of them are always welcoming. They always not always, but they initiate it.
Yeah.
You know, we got off the phone. Two of them will always, not always, but a lot of times say, "I love you, Dad." You
Hmm.
know, one of them never said,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's the one that's if they watching, they probably can figure it out.
Now, it's for me, it's the understanding that I didn't hear it from my dad until I was 18 years old. And
Mm.
so now, and I'm not gonna lie, because of that, I struggled with it when I was younger. But as I did a lot of work on myself, I got over that real quick. And so now I do not hesitate to tell my kids, boy, girl, it doesn't even matter to me. I tell them in
Yeah.
a heartbeat I love them. And then sometimes that at some points they weren't really used to it. It was like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? It's like the little meme with a dude, the little dude is sitting in a little puppet, and his eyes is like, you know,
Yeah.
it's like that's how my kids was at first. Like, did he say that? Yeah, he
Yeah.
said. But now it's
Mhm.
like second nature. Like
Yeah.
when I say it, it's like they expect it now.
Mm. Yeah. That's good, man. That's
Yeah,
good
man.
stuff. Speaking of which, now again, no shade. I know some parents can be very overbearing. They want to be in all the business and all of the stuff like this.
Mhm. Mhm.
I know people who talk to their parents every single day. Now, I will say this. Shell talks to somebody in her family, whether her sister, her brother, her mama, her daddy, her uncle, aunt, grandma, somebody, every single day. They have those relationships. Their culture is all about family and stuff like this. But I know sometimes we have parents who want to be all in the business. We want to be overbearing. We want to every time somebody do something, post another picture on Facebook so grandma can see it, and send me another video, and I get all of those things, but they want to be overbearing. But we also understand that, like, I want to have conversations and call my kids, but I don't want to be calling them to the point to where they like, darn, daddy calling again. You know what I'm saying? So how do we remain relevant, still part of their lives as they grow up and move on and have their families and their own personal lives and different things like that? Because as we get older and we start settling down, we want to spend more time with them. We want to spend time around the kid time and around the grandkids and stuff like this, but we don't want to be overbearing and calling and all these things all the time. So how do we stay relevant without being overbearing?
Probably gonna be an unpopular response,
Uh-oh.
right?
Here we go. This
Um,
555.
the way that you stay relevant without being overbearing is by being curious. Number one, if we have curiosity about what's going on with them, and we make it about them and not about us, the reason why we're overbearing is because we're doing a thing to them, for them, or with them because that's what we want. But
Mm.
when it is focused on them, recognizing that, hey, they got this whole life that they got going on. And let's just be honest, like none of my kids are married, right?
Mhm.
But let's just assume that the oldest has a living girlfriend, right? But let's just say they got married. They're married. I don't need to be at their house 24/7, right? They married.
To watch the grandkids.
Right. They married. Like
Mhm.
that's part of their life. That's to me, that's overbearing. If my presence is always felt, that is overbearing. Like
Mhm.
understand what they got going on through again curiosity. I'm curious about what's going on with you. I'm curious about what's going on with my grandkids and so forth and so on. But then by that same token, keeping enough distance for them to live an adult life. I think that's the difference. And that distance for them to live an adult life prevents me from being overbearing. And they never view me as being overbearing. So now when I do come around, it's not only, a surprise, but it's a pleasant surprise. Right. But if it's just second nature for me to come around, then it's like, oh, well, there's that. And it's like, oh, well, those days are behind me now. Like they married, they got their own family, they're doing their own thing. And for me, like even though my kids aren't married, I still look at them from that lens. They got their own life, they're doing their own thing. And so now for me, I am curious about what that looks like. I'm curious because now that gets me into those conversations, asking how are you doing this and so what are your plans to do that and things of that nature. Because if you share it with me, now I want to ask because I'm curious. And I think they appreciate the curious approach as opposed to the overbearing approach.
I get this. So it's a shift in mindset and taking the focus off of me and post on Facebook, send me a video,
Hmm.
me, and shift the focus to you. How are you guys doing? How are the grandkids? What's going on in her life? Does grandbaby one, anything they got going on in their life? Do they want to be part of football? You know what I mean? Do y'all need some funds for some football clothes? I don't know. I'm just saying. But I get that you saying shift the mindset from
Well,
me to them.
it shouldn't be a shift in mindset, right?
Shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be a shift in mindset. It should have
Mhm.
always been about them. But
Mhm.
here's the issue: the shift is not a mindset shift; it's a shift
Okay.
in behavior because of the gates that they've gone through.
Mm.
And so at one point in time, you needed me to feed you. You needed me to change your diaper. You needed me to do those things. But then you started wearing pull-ups and then you went to your little kangaroo underwear and all kind of stuff like that. And,
Yep.
and so now you started using the bathroom on your own. You started feeding yourself. You don't need me to do those things. And then you got a little older. You started dressing yourself. You probably put your shoes on backwards every now and then, but you just needed me to correct those. And then now you got that down to the science. And then you transition and then you became a teenager. And now it's not about me doing this. It's like me only providing the money to buy the clothes that you want because you're trying to be the cool kid, right? So understanding those transitions. Well, when they become adults, it's another transition. That transition means that I don't get to see you every day. That transition
Mhm.
means that now you're doing the things that for somebody else, your child, that I once did for you. So now the only thing I am is a trusted advisor for you to do it the right way because I recognize how bad I messed it up. Right. So now that's what it looks like. So it's always been about them from the day that they were born. Problem is that a lot of us wasn't taught that. And so a
Mm.
lot of us ended up having kids because we felt that now I have somebody who will love me unconditionally. I don't. I'm sorry. I'm just putting it out
Oh,
there.
here he come.
Just putting it out there. I'm sorry. I'm just keeping it real. But that's wrong. That was
Mhm.
wrong. It
Yep.
was for you to love that child, not necessarily for that child to love you. Not saying that the child's
Mhm.
not going to love you,
Yeah.
right? But I'm just saying when you go into it with the wrong mindset, that wrong mindset, if not corrected, continues through adulthood.
I get it. I get it, man. And I liked all of that. I think from everything that we've talked about today, it seems like a lot of this stuff is based off of the relationship that you have with your adult child as well. If your relationship is trash, you can't do some of this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't have the ability. If your relationship is trash with your son, and you go over his house and he living nasty and he living foul, he ain't gonna want to hear you telling him that hey bro, you need to clean up this pigsty. He ain't gonna be open to it because he may not respect you or maybe y'all don't have that relationship to whereas he feels or thinks that you can say anything to him. So I think that a lot of these things that we've talked about today definitely have something to do with the relationship that you have with our grown kids.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I wouldn't say trash. I would say that in the midst of said relationship, I think what we do is we try to figure out how we fit in because of those
Hmm.
because of those benchmarks and milestones. And so if you being a little overbearing, that child is going to respond. Well, that adult child is going to respond in such a way to let you know that you're being a little overbearing. Like, let's just be completely honest. Some of us, again, another unpopular
Hmm.
statement. Some of us believe that we have more authority in your adult child life than what you really do. And then in some
Speak on
instances,
it.
what really needs to happen is that adult child needs to help you realize that they themselves are adults. Your parenting days ideally have expired. You're an advisor. That's your role as a parent now. That's all you do. You are an advisor. And a lot of people try to parent their adult children. Those days are gone. Sorry, we squandered that. And I say
Hmm.
we because to some degree, everybody has on something. I'm not saying
Hmm.
across the entire spectrum of it, but on something, every parent has dropped the ball on something when it comes down to that child. And the
Hmm.
only thing you can do is own it, share it with that child, and say, "Hey, man, I may not have done right as it pertains to this thing right here. As I was thinking about it, and I'm learning more about life and things of that nature. I didn't do this right, and I want you to know that because I want you to make sure that you do it right for your child." That's our position now.
I like the advisory role better. It's not as much pressure. And then I get to choose what information I advise on. If I don't want to advise, I was talking to my brother about this one. We was talking about this conversation. I was like, bro, we got a show coming up. You got to make sure you watch it. So hopefully he tapped in today. If you
Sure.
all will, Martin, appreciate you for being here. And we was like, still like just still trying to figure out when is the right time, even if you do have a relationship. And I think you may have said something earlier when it came to like, it's going to affect you within 10 years, or it's going to be after 10 years, going to be harmful. Like, we're like trying to figure out where that line in and where we say something and when we don't. Like, if I go over my son's house and this house is nasty, is
Hmm.
that really worth me saying anything? Yeah, I don't like it. It's clothes all over the floor and stuff like this. The kids got pampers on and they ain't nose is runny and stuff like this. But like, is that important, or is things like safety? Hey,
Hmm.
bro, you're 25 years old. You need to wrap it up. You all here doing what you're doing and you ain't protecting yourself. You need to be
Yeah.
protecting yourself. That's
Yeah.
a life or death situation. So do you think some of this is about, and I know you may have mentioned it, and I hope I'm not, well, it maybe it's okay, if it's come by hearing and hearing. So revisiting is okay. So do you think some of it is kind of layers and what's important and what's not, as far as us putting our nose into our kids' business too?
Absolutely. That's part of what I was talking about previously.
Yeah.
Like, to your point, if I go to my child's house and like you said, the term you use is nasty,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now,
We was in the military.
no,
You know
no.
what I'm saying?
I'm with you, and I'm
Okay.
I'm I'm revisiting that for a
Okay.
reason. The term you use is nasty, but
Hmm.
it's nasty according to who? Me.
To me.
Now, if he's married, there's going to be some secondary and tertiary effects with me addressing how nasty that home is.
Hmm.
Because now, if he shares that with his wife, now on the other hand, well, every time your daddy come over here, he got something to say. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So now I am
Hmm.
creating more of a problem for him as well, because now
Mm.
they got to do cheetah flips or whatever the case may be. And I get it. It's
Clean the
like you got
house.
the
Yeah.
merging of two homes, two
Mm.
different upbringings coming together. Some things are going to shift. Maybe I used to do the white glove inspections when they were kids. And now he's married and it's like, well, she don't necessarily believe in a white glove inspection, but pop, it ain't bad. I'm like, okay, cool. And I walk over there and, I'm stepping across kids' toys to get through the front door. And, you got an old, let's just say old beer bottles on the table that have been there since yesterday and all kind of stuff like that. Like, do I really need to address that? Like,
Yeah.
you know that I know that that thing is there. You know
Yeah.
that I had to step like, you see it.
You live with
So
me for 18 years, you
right,
know.
you
Yeah.
already know. So
Yeah.
some things and that's why I talked about, the truth and timing.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, I don't necessarily have to talk about that. But if it's something I need to talk about, I need to do it at the appropriate time. And
Mhm.
around her is not may not necessarily be the appropriate time unless it's something that benefits to both of them. But if I can share it with him, because let's just be honest, she needs to understand that I care about her as well. They're
Mhm.
they're they're a deal now. That's
Yep.
just what it is. So I can't just pull my son aside and, hey, son, let me holler at you real quick. And then she's like, well, man, I try
Yeah.
to make him feel welcome. He'll never talk. He'll never want to
Yeah.
talk to me. So it's
Yeah.
like you got to kind of like you got to measure these things, right? And so I don't talk. I don't have to make a big deal about everything.
Yeah.
I talk about those things that are important to him and the things that are important to me about him. If I can prevent you from experiencing heartache, pain, trouble, and all that other great stuff, great. But if life circumstances usher you down that path, then I want to be there so that I can have conversation with you so you can see what you learned about yourself while going through this.
Yeah. Man, I like all of that. I'm glad we kind of glad we went there. Wasn't no question or nothing like that. Just conversation. So I like it. We got another shift for y'all today. We got another segment today for Coach. Well, this is for both of us and all the chat. Y'all can feel free to chime in too. This is just a simple would you rather. There's no right or
Yes.
wrong, no right or wrong answer for this either. Just would you rather in your own opinion. So
The answer is yes.
the answer is yes. There you go. So and these are just only because you have just these two options. Would you rather stay silent and be misunderstood or speak and cause conflict?
I don't think that's I don't think that's the either or. I think that's an and.
Mhm.
I think in certain situations you run the risk of causing conflict because conflict is necessary for a relationship. And I don't care what relationship you're in, there will be some sort of conflict. Me and you had conflict at one point in time. It didn't last long, but
Mhm.
that speaks to the depth and breadth of the relationship. But misunderstanding is a facet of another person's thought processes. So even in the midst of me either being silent or even saying something, I still run the risk of being misunderstood. So I don't think it's a would I rather. And maybe I'm sucking at this game right
Yeah,
now.
you are sucking because you're supposed to pick one.
Maybe I'm sucking at this game right now. But if
Uh-huh.
I gotta choose one, I'm choosing conflict.
And see, me too. I would rather speak and cause conflict. And here's why. I'm only going to speak to people about a certain thing. Let me pause. Speak and cause the conflict. Simple as that. In most cases, I'm not going to bring something up to somebody to whereas the conflict is going to lead to um not being here anymore.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So if I'm walking down the street and if I'm driving in my car and something like this and someone cut me off and then we both get off at the Piggly Wiggly, I'm not going to go over there and say something to them. I'm not going to speak and cause conflict. I don't know who that person is. Right? And I'm just let me pause, let me back up, let me stop. Let me get away from all this because I'm diverting. We were talking about our kids.
See, you
So
suck at this game
y'all
too.
about to go somewhere. I suck at the game. So let's see if we can move down the question to question two and see if we can
Oh, wait,
redeem
can
ourselves.
we go back? Can we go back
Yeah,
one second?
let's go back.
Because I want people to understand why conflict is the choice.
Yeah.
Conflict is a beautiful train wreck when it comes
Mhm.
down to a relationship. Conflict presents itself, and if we handle it right, the relationship gets better.
If that's the
That
key.
if we handle it right, the relationship
Mhm.
gets better. So when conflict presents itself in a relationship, that is actually an opportunity for you to get excited and not run from it, but you run to it so that you can get beyond the conflict and learn the lessons that both people need to learn in the midst of conflict. That's why I say choose conflict.
Yep. I say choose conflict too. Speak and choose conflict.
We don't want peace. We
All right,
want problems. No, I'm
want
joking.
problems, all the smoke. So give us all the smoke.
This is easy. I got this
Yeah.
one.
Here
I
you
got
go. Would you rather your child respect you or agree with you?
Aretha Franklin.
Absolutely. Respect me. You don't have to agree with me. I don't care. You don't have to. It is okay not to agree with me.
That's it.
Matter of fact, the fact if you don't agree with me, I'm more likely at my age to want to know why you don't agree with me and try
Mhm.
to understand your perspective.
Yep.
I said you need to clean the bathroom A, B, and C. You like that? No, brother. Over here, D, E, and F work real good.
Right.
I don't agree how A, B, and C. Well, let's see how good D E and F working. If D E and F working good, I want to know because it can help me and help my life better. But that respect thing, brother, yeah,
Yes, sir. All day
I'm
long.
with you on this one. All right, so we did better on the second one. Here we
We did.
go.
We did.
We got three more. All right, so here we go, folks. Would you rather say too much or not enough?
At my kid's age, not enough.
Not enough. I'm still thinking on this one.
Hey, man, I'm trying to stick to the confines of the game.
I am too. Hmm. Darn it. Because that's that whole thing. Would you rather have it and not need it? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Or need it and not have it. So the way my mind thinks, I'd rather have it just in case, even
Hmm.
if I'm not going to need it. And that pushes me to saying too much. But if I say too much of the wrong thing, I'm still going with it. The way I am, I'm probably going to end up saying too much. Um,
Right.
I'd rather
Would
say too
would you
much.
rather? Would you rather?
I'd rather say too much.
Okay.
Because if I say so, the way I'm thinking about saying too much is that I'd rather give you more information. Because if I'm coming to you about something like my opinion or like my situation I'm talking about,
Hmm.
if I say too much, I don't think that's going to be as helpful as me not saying enough or not having a conversation. So that's kind of, and I know I'm not
You're good.
100% spot on, but that's kind of sort of why I'm leaning towards
Right.
maybe saying too much, even though
The
it's
re-
not exactly the same thing.
the reason why I said not enough is because first and foremost, enough is subjective, right? And
Moving on, folks. Let's move on. Let's move on. But you're right. You're right
right,
about that. You're
it's
right about
subjective,
that.
and so I can say just the right amount, and
Hmm.
then leave the rest for discovery.
Yep. Yep. I see that. I see that. See, different perspectives, brother. Hey, if y'all haven't checked out Empowering Perspective podcast, Hearts of Men Friday night, 8 o'clock, check it out. Next one. Hey, would you rather step in or step back?
Step back.
Yeah. All day. I'd rather step back. You got it, brother. You got it. You got it. The more and more you can do, the more better decisions you make, the more I can kind of back off, the more I can advise,
Exactly.
like you said, to be in more so in my advisory role. Like, man, you
Remember,
got it.
remember the adults. Step back.
No, step
They got
back.
to figure it out. They got to figure it
Yeah.
out.
Because when you have to step in, it's like stepping in my thought process means that you're needed. There's something wrong. There's something going on to where I need to step in. But I mean, there may be a problem there. So
Right.
I'm stepping back. It's like they got it. Ain't no problem. I can, yeah.
And trust that they can figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other
Yes,
part.
that part. The last one. It's a good one. Here we go. Would you rather coach or
Really?
comfort?
Really? Really? I don't even have to answer this. I think
Don't even answer it.
everybody in the chat can answer it for me. Easy. This is a coach. I coach my
I
kids.
wonder how many people. I wonder how many going to put comfort.
I'm sure they would. That's
Yeah.
but that's based upon what they're comfortable with, right? Um, most people don't necessarily know how to coach their kids, right? A lot of my responses that I were given, would you rather, was all about coaching them. That's
Mhm.
why I said I would rather not say enough, right?
Mhm.
Let them figure it out. The spaces in their head, like, okay, he said this, but how do I do this? And blah, 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 blah. So now they got to figure some things out on their own. But that's really what we should have been doing with our kids in the first place.
Yep. I agree. Now, the thing about that is this. I agree that we should be more in an advisory role, and like you said, the coaching part. However, comma, this guy up here with the red shirt on, with the Georgia Bulldogs across it, with the beard and the bald head, that guy is a licensed coach. He has learned and developed and been trained and has been able to use and develop his skills to be able to coach. Most people didn't learn that. We didn't learn how to advise. We didn't learn how to coach. You know what I'm saying? And so that works for us. But and I agree that sometimes we should, instead of just giving our kids the answer or the or whatever, sometimes be able to walk them through a problem solving plan to where they can get to solving their own problem. However, common coach, let's be honest, a lot of us didn't get that training. I got it, you got it, but a lot of people didn't.
Right.
So the average parent out there is not necessarily trained in coaching, but we are kind of trained in comfort. So what do we say to the people who are not necessarily trained? And I'm not, this is not a coach or comfort question,
Mhm.
but what do we say to the people who are navigating and talking and on here on this panel and not panel, but listening in the chat and stuff, and they have kids and they don't have the skills to coach and to problem solve and talk their kids through problems and when they come through them. So what do you say to these people?
It's 2025.
Mm.
Yeah. At some point, you got to recognize you're making an excuse, right? You
Mhm.
didn't know how to parent when you first had kids either, but you figured it out. So I think in the midst of that, you can go online and Google like some empowering questions to ask your kids that cause them to think and problem solve. Like anybody can do that, right? Whether or not you do it appropriately, that's neither here nor there at this point. But at some point, a child wants you to kind of take your hands off of them and let them ride the bike on their own. They don't want their friends to watch you push them down the street while they're pedaling the bike. Take your hands off the bike, mama. Let me go. Let me go. Let me go. Well, that's coaching. If you did that, that is coaching. So you can't say, I don't know, because you have relevant examples in your life of doing a thing. What did you do differently when it comes down to other things? Did you actually go in there and show them how to wash the dishes? Did you show them how to put the dish soap in and did you show them how to take the rag? Did you show them how to dry? Did you show 'em? Okay. That would be the definition of training. But after you train them on how to do the thing, what happened subsequently after that? Did you go and do it again? No. You said, "Hey, go wash dishes." And then when they went and wash dishes, you let them do it, and then you went and checked behind them and kind of gave them a grade in your head of how well they did it. Really, what you was grading is how well they did it compared to how well you do it, knowing that yours is the standard. And so what you're trying to do is raise them to your standard. That's coaching. So that's kind of like my point. It's 2025. Like we can make every excuse under the sun, but
Yeah.
then we got to recognize we're still making excuses. Stop making excuses and go figure it out. Your child needs that from you.
Yeah, that's true, man. And we all got these phones, and a lot of us spend a lot of time on them. Some people got two and three of them, and work phones, and computers, and
Mhm.
laptops, and tablets, and everything else. Like you said, um, the it's not for lack of information. It's not lack for the ability to obtain the information. It's lack in application.
Yep,
And I use that word a lot of times. I like that A word over here.
that's it.
Application is huge. So looking at the time, I think we will do one more question and then we're gonna we're gonna wrap it up with actionable advice. You cool with that?
Sure.
All right, because I'm looking at we got some more questions and stuff like this and scenarios, but it looks like a lot of the stuff that's over there we kind of already covered it through the through the would you rather's and the rapid fire and stuff like that. So here's the last question before we get into the actionable advice. So how do you lead by example when words won't work? Or I'm taking the one from your book,
Mhm.
giving you two choices. I like the choice. Or what does healthy influence look like when your child is independent?
Mm.
How do
Um,
you lead by example when words don't work? Or what does healthy influence look like when your child is independent?
I'm gonna stick with this one.
This one.
Um, Again, we understand that leadership is influence, right? According to our mentor John Maxwell. And so when you look at what this healthy influence look like when your child is independent, it looks like leadership. It didn't start when my child was independent. It started when my child was dependent, or at least should have. For some of us, we kind of missed the mark for one reason or the other, whether you're disenfranchised, whether you're, whatever. So you may have missed the leadership mark when the child was a dependent. So now that the child is independent, leadership is still available. It just looks different. You will always be dad. You will always be mom. That will never change. But your positional relationship with them change based upon their dependent or independent status. If they're independent, recognize that they're independent. You can't make up the dependency time. A lot of us feel compelled to make up the dependency time. You can't do it. You can apologize for missing the dependency time, and maybe that makes room for the independent time, right? So now, as a leader, right, healthy influence looks like kind of like what I said previously. Recognize that my leadership style for them should facilitate them in the life that they're trying to lead. Not me trying to direct that life, not me trying to instruct that life, and not me trying to steer that life. Me recognizing the direction that they want to go, the path that they want to take, and help them forge the path through that, whatever they want to go, right? By simply incrementally adding little small tidbits of nuggets throughout the period of time to help them get there.
And ladies and gentlemen, that was the icing on the cake for this evening. We're going to leave you guys with one last little segment called Actionable Advice. Um, and if you haven't already, before you roll out, hit the like button, share, and subscribe, and all those other things. You ready for Actionable Advice, Coach?
Let's do it.
All right. Yep.
Let's do it. Parenting is it's the most beautiful, rewarding, difficult, and ugly thing you will ever do in your life. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll be all in your feelings. Um, every emotion that you can imagine, you will experience it. But I offer this as it pertains to it, regardless of how old that child is. If they're 2 months old, 20 years old, or 50 years old, your job as a parent is always the same. It just looks different. Your job as the parent is to give that child the best version of who you are in that moment for the sake of the growth, development, nurturing, and progression of that child. That is all. No more, no less. No less. You're supposed to raise that child up in the way that they should go, and then point that child in the direction that they're supposed to go, and then allow them to navigate their own ship. At that point, you get in the back of the ship and you sit there. And at the end of the day, whatever they need from you, that's the key. Whatever they need from you, make sure that you have the capacity. And that's the word. Make sure that you have the capacity to provide it. So, how do I get to the point of providing, having the capacity? I have to do the work on myself. I can't expect to live in this world based upon a title alone. That's one of the biggest mistakes we make. We think the title of parent is good enough. It is not. It is not. It requires you to do better. It requires you to think better. It requires you to expand yourself, to have the capacity and the wherewithal to be whatever that child needs you to be as they're making these transitions in their life. And when that child becomes grown, when they become gone and on their own, you have to appreciate them based upon the amount of time that they want to give you. And when they give it to you, be available to them so that you can appreciate each other in that moment. And that's my actual advice.
My actionable advice for this week is 3 steps. So I wrote mine down and it is this simple. So this is a 3-question pause challenge. So if you have adult children or something like that, and before, so this week, and you can use it after this week as well, but this week, before you give any advice or correcting or anything like that to your adult children, I want you to stop and pause and do this first. First of all, number one, did they ask for this? Did they ask for your advice or your opinion or perspective on whatever it is that's going on in their life? Number two, will this strengthen or strain you guys' connection? We talked about that earlier in the show. Is the conversation worth it? When you're going over your child's house, maybe having a conversation about the cleanliness of the house and how it's maintained may not be the best conversation to have. Is it worth the conversation? And then number three, are you speaking for their good or to soothe some sort of ego or something that you have going on in your life? So before you give any advice or have a correction or talk or conversation like that with your child about something, your adult child about something, like, think about those 3 things. Now, if the answer is not clear, here's what you do. You wait, pray, or reflect on it first, right? And then hopefully at some point, because sometimes silence can be a good thing. Sometimes sitting in silence, waiting on it, praying about something, or getting a clear picture about what's going on, waiting for that answer to come is sometimes better than just going off and having diarrhea of the mouth. And I just put that up there. I forgot to put it up there earlier, but that's my actual advice for this afternoon for this show. There we go. Man, it was a good one, man.
It was.
Appreciate
It
you.
really was.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't care. Like, if you're watching this right now, you need to go back and watch it again. Um,
Mm,
especially if you got kids, adult or young kids. Like, I think it's important. Like, if I had known a lot of this stuff when I was a young parent, I mean, bro, I'm just saying. So yeah, go back and watch this. Make sure y'all hit that like button,
yep.
and leave a comment. Let us know what you think about the show. I really am interested in seeing the comments that you guys leave. Yeah, man, that's just what I want to add there.
So this title, just to give y'all a sneak peek into a couple of weeks from now. So in a couple of weeks. So this show was entitled When to Speak. Now the next one was talking about is, are you teaching or are you talking? So that's another one. Like you said, we're advisors now. So
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to that conversation
Oh
too.
yeah, yeah,
What comes out of our mouth when we start spitting. You know what I'm
absolutely,
saying? So um life and death is in the power of the tongue. Ladies
indeed.
and gentlemen, that is it for the day. Y'all have a good one, and we will see y'all next Tuesday. We out.